Welcome back to your practice. We're going to do a yin sequence for the stomach and spleen meridians. And these meridians, energetically, emotionally, when they're out of balance, are connected with overthinking or an inability to have clear thinking or a hard time making decisions, which can often lead to worriness, anxiousness, stress, just that feeling of spinning your wheels without coming to any clear conclusion. It is really energetically our ability to feel at home within ourselves and to take in nourishment. Physically, it's going to focus a lot on the front of the legs, the outer hips, and the front of the spine. We're going to start with a wide-knee child's pose. Oh, and inner thighs too. You'll see that quickly. We're going to do a wide-knee child's pose. We're going to add a twist at some point in the pose. So knowing that, you might decide to put something under the head. I often like a bolster under the chest, but since we're adding the twist, then you might opt to not use it today, or you can just move it out of the way when we get to that point. So finding first the width of the legs that's comfortable for the inner thighs, the knees, a comfortable place to rest the head. And then a few breaths to settle and just see what it feels like to be in your body in this home that's carrying you around today. And take a few wide breaths across the back of the lungs, that back kidney band. And then we'll lift up just enough we can thread that left arm under the right. And you'll come down onto the left cheek. Right arm can stay reaching forward, but with a little softness. And making your way over to the other side, threading that right arm. Coming back to center, last few breaths. And then as you're ready, drawing yourself up. We're going to move through a series of shapes on one side, getting the quadriceps, the hip flexors, and the outer hips. This is where maybe you're going to want the use of several props. So we're going to start with half hero's pose, which is that quad dominant stretch. And you'll have the option to lie back. And I like to go ahead and put the bolster back there or a couple blankets just to catch me. And then we're going to start with the left leg. So you want something like a block or a cushion to go underneath the right butt cheek only, right butt cheek only. So the left shin is going to tuck back and the foot is going straight back. Toes are pointing straight back, but you're not sitting on top of it. So it's outside of the hip. And then you slide that block blanket cushion just under the right side of the bum so we can keep the pelvis level. And then depending on how this feels, you might lean back a little bit onto the hands. I like to press that right foot down, lift the hips, tuck the tailbone, and then put the pelvis back down. And then you check in if there's room to keep going. Maybe you come back a little bit further. So never with forcing. In fact, backing off a little bit, creating some space. It's generally when we create space, there's room to go a little deeper. So instead of forcing your way through, and have the same idea with trying to come to a decision, often it's a good idea just to step away altogether, take a little rest, go out for a walk, do a yoga practice. And then generally from creating that space, or a little bit of separation, our minds have room to breathe. We can more easily assess what's going on, what we need in the moment to nourish us, and what is that wise, skillful answer that's always there, it's always available, but we're not always in the headspace to access it. And that's what I love most about practices like yin. Give the brain a moment to be still, quiet. And we're going to take a little more time in the shape, and I'm going to do just that. I'm going to be quiet. I'll let you know when it's time to move on. Last few breaths. And if you're reclining, finding your way up to a seat again. Okay, from here we're going to go into a lunge with the right foot forward. So we're going to stay with stretching the top of the left thigh. But if that knee needs a little reprieve, then maybe a dog pose, or even from hands and knees, you stretch that left leg back and pulse, rock a few times. And then gradually at some point you'll step the right foot forward, left knee down. And there are so many different types of lunges in general, but also in the yin world. So I'm just going to ask you to focus on stretching the front of the left thigh. So you could stay in a more classical low lunge with that right foot more or less towards the midline. Hands could be on the ground or on blocks. You could stay with the classical low lunge, but lift the spine up. I often find that gives me the best quality of stretch. Or you could take that wider dragon variation where you walk the right foot out to the right. So both hands are inside the foot. You might even pivot the toes a little bit out to the side. Actually, that's where I want to be today. And then we'll take a little bit of time. If you want to slide anything under the hands or forearms, let the shape have more of a yin quality, softening the edges, releasing some of the effort. Okay, the last shape on this side is going to be pigeon or some kind of outer hip stretch with the right leg forward. I'm going to suggest pigeon today though because I want to continue stretching the top of that left thigh. So in pigeon you have that back leg straight, and I just took a bolster underneath going all the way across. So it's not just going to grab that right hip, but the top of the left thigh. So for me, that keeps the pelvis at more of a level position versus feeling like I'm dropping all the way over or I have to push that left hip down. So you might try something like that. Again, if pigeon doesn't work, knees, hips just don't love it, don't force it. Do a different hip opener. But if it's available to you today, just so we can stay in the front of that left thigh. And then your choice if you're upright, and like the lunge, if you want to come down, support the arms, support the head. Last few breaths. And take a little time for yourself before we repeat that sequence, all on the right side. If there's a place you want to pause and reflect, if there's a little bit of movement you want to make, there's not a right response, just one that's unique to you. Right, when you're ready to move with me, we're going to come into that half hero's pose on the right side. So if it was helpful first time around, you might go ahead and put that cushion or bolster to the back. This time it's the right shin that will be down. And you want something underneath that left butt cheek. Remember, you're not sitting on the right heel, but do you notice that those toes are pointing straight back? They're lining up with the knee that's pointing straight forward. And you have several minutes to enter the shape, to stay in the shape. So take whatever slow progression you need to find that just right amount of sensation in the right quadricep, front of the hip. One more minute. If you're reclining, making your way up. And if you need some time or an extra transition as you head into that lunge, we're going to meet with the left foot forward, right knee down, but take whatever you need to release, integrate. You feel ready to move forward. And it doesn't have to be the same variation on this side. You might try a few different ways of doing the lunge. And then the one that you can settle into, feeling a reasonable amount of stretch on the right leg, but not pushing yourself over that edge of sensation. You can maintain a smooth cadence of breathing. The face can stay relaxed. Belly is soft. We are going to take it into pigeon or that hip opener of your choosing. Grab whatever props necessary. And then settling back into stillness, back into quiet. Just dropping all your senses inward. And there will still be things around you or things that grab your attention. You still can acknowledge them, let them be a part of your environment and forming your practice, but not overhauling it. Staying connected to your inner source, that inner knowing that's always present, always available. Just tapping into that space a little more clearly with intention and with care. Final minute in the shape. And releasing in the way that feels best to you. A handful of breaths to pause somewhere or integrate the shapes into some movement. And then we have one more yin shape to go before Shavasana. We're going to get back into the inner thighs. We're going to do a straddle. So you could do this seated, and I like to prop myself up onto the edge or corner of a blanket. You could use several folded blankets. So instead of sitting on the flat edge, I just like to use the corner. You can do this with legs up the wall if you don't want to do a seated forward bend. So you can go over to a wall or something firm. Scoot in with your hips and then heave ho, and then take the legs out as wide as you want to go. So width doesn't matter so much as sensation. So looking to target those inner thighs and groin. And then I like to make a little tabletop, and depending on the day and how tight I am, I might make it higher. So you could stack the palms, stack the forearms, rest the head. You can make it high enough that you could tuck the arms in between and rest the head. So Goldilocks, Princess and the Pea, all of those things. Make it as comfortable for you as you can while still getting a targeted stretch along those inner thighs. And let the spine round. So feel the tailbone drop. Feel that arc from the tailbone, the back of the neck, back of the head. You might even tuck the chin a little bit. And then as long as there's no discomfort in the inner knee, outer knee, you can relax intentional or even unintentional effort through the legs, all the way out to the feet and the toes. One more minute. If you're seated and forward bending, you'll lift the spine first. If you have your legs at the wall, you'll bring the legs together and then slide the heels down the wall, let the knees tuck in. If you're seated, I like to do one leg first, almost like a little bit of a forklift. You kind of scoop at the back of the knee, lean back and draw the leg in. All right, we're going to end with a Shavasana. And I'm going to suggest kind of sticking with the inner thighs, doing soles of the feet together, knees open for the Shavasana. So you could use, like I'm going to do a bolster lengthwise, you could use blocks or blankets kind of rolled up at the outer thigh. Even if you feel like you have the hip flexibility, please use something, because if we're here for a good amount of time without the legs being supported, you can overstretch those sacral ligaments. So it's a good idea to support the legs, support the thigh. You might want a pillow under your head or a blanket to cover you. And if this is not the shape you want to close with, just choosing your favorite pose or favorite resting place. And we're going to be here for about 7 minutes, so you do want to take the time finding warmth, maybe something to cover the eyes. Light is the singular most disturbing thing to the nervous system. And then it's nearly impossible to relax if you're cold. So making sure you're warm. The body's comfortable so you can be still. The arms are far enough out to the sides that the lungs still have room to move out to the right and the left. And then let your weight drop, gravity neutral, head and heart on the same plane. Just by being in this position, we're sending those signals to the brain that we don't have to use any muscle tone to stay balanced or upright. So involuntarily, the body will relax a little bit. Just deepening that connection by feeling what's beneath you and allowing yourself to be held from the base of the skull through the backs of the shoulders, back of the pelvis, through the legs, the feet, the arms and hands. Everything held, nourished. And I'll let you know when it's time to come up. Hang soft in the body. Take a slow breath in and a slow breath out. A few more of those as you reorient yourself to the space. If you have the legs in that Baddha Konasana shape, drawing the knees towards one another, rolling over to a side, curling up for a handful of breaths. And then pressing up to a seat. If it feels authentic to you, sliding a hand to the heart, just ending with that gesture of connection with yourself. Maybe even turning your head down a little bit towards the heart. Just honoring this body, everything it does for us. And honoring yourself for making the choice to be here, carving out the time, making the effort, the commitment to your practice, to yourself. Let's take one last slow breath in together. A generous breath out. And thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.